Welcome back to Reality Check. I'm your host, Ross Coulthart, and today I'm delighted to introduce here at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles, Danny Gola, somebody I've wanted to talk to for a very long time. Danny's an independent researcher and inventor known for his unconventional explorations at the intersection of physics, psychedelics, and linguistics. His most publicised claim centres around 2020. While under the influence of DMT, dimethyltryptamine, a potent psychedelic, he alleges he discovered a hidden language by viewing the smoke or vapour through a focused laser beam. Specifically, he describes inhaling DMT vapour and shining a low-powered red laser through it, revealing intricate dynamic patterns that resemble a structured script or glyphs. He claims these aren't mere hallucinations, but an objective language of reality, a universal code embedded in the fabric of existence, potentially linking quantum mechanics, consciousness, and ancient scripts like Hebrew or Sanskrit. And you also run a non-profit called Code of Reality.
That's what we called it, tongue-in-cheek, but you know.
So you look like a perfectly normal person for a chap who's basically inhaled a hell of a lot of psychedelic drugs.
Yeah.
Is DMT dangerous?
Only as Terence used to say, if you fear death by astonishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, I've used DMT myself, which is half the reason why I really want to speak to you. For me, it was life-changing. It was profound. And I found it taught me things and helped me understand things in the months after I took it for the first time. Do you find that yourself?
Yeah, but I think that it depends on how deep you go and how well you integrate it, but overall, yes, absolutely.
So tell me about this experiment. How did you discover it?
Well, it's a very long story, but the short version of it is that I had a set of experiences on DMT that was, and it's going to sound weird, out of the norm even for DMT. So it was as realistic as you are sitting next to me right now. And that set of experiences made me no longer comfortable with the idea that this is just a mere hallucination or something in my head. And I asked myself, okay, well, if whatever we're experiencing on DMT might be real, as in existing on its own side even when we're not looking, then how can we potentially determine that conclusively? And when I looked around, I realized that the answers that I saw from the scientific side and from the spiritual side were simply non-satisfactory to me. So I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and answer that question myself. And that started a very long process of years in which I was trying to think about it in every which way, try to make some fundamental assumptions about what must be true if this space is real. And eventually, after years, I think after maybe 5 to 7 years from that point, I realized that coherent light is supposed to be doing something when we're observing psychedelic spaces. And sure enough, I turned on a laser, it has to be diffracted, and I smoked DMT.
So you're putting it through a prism?
It's not a prism, that would be refraction, so that's diffraction. So it basically splits the light into, just like you have the double slit experiment,
sure.
Only many, many, many slits. So it essentially creates a band of light on the wall. And when you look at that, while you're on DMT, what I observed, and now thousands of people all over the earth observed so far, there seems to be some kind of language in there, but it's not appearing in the same way that people tend to see language in psychedelic spaces or in meditative spaces. It seems to be more coherent, super HD, and it's suspended in its own space in some way. So it's doing a thing on its own accord. It's very similar to how you look through a microscope.
Yeah.
There's a whole world in there that you're exploring.
So what is it? I mean, I think the skeptical explanation for your observations argues that it's essentially an intense visual hallucination, and this is what orthodox science says.
Yeah.
They say that by binding to serotonin receptors in the brain, it produces geometric patterns and entity encounters, and the laser beam, they speculate, could amplify pareidolia, the tendency to see meaningful shapes in random stimuli,
Yeah.
through light diffraction in the vapor, creating optical illusions akin to laser speckle patterns in physics demos. And as I'm saying this, it's not really washing to me, because it's not a laser speckle pattern. You're seeing a very formed language, aren't you?
Yeah, and you can say that the speckle can work as a form of scaffolding for the mind to basically attach content to, which does make sense. But to me, the question whether it can, so the question whether the brain can somehow produce this under the influence of DMT coupled with the fractal laser, that's not a good question, because the answer to that will always be yes. Simply, it doesn't matter what you do, the answer is yes.
I read a book by Rick Strassman called The Spirit Molecule, which is fascinating, and he of course was a psychedelics researcher as well. And he also documented not just entity encounters, the machine elves, but this weird geometric visions, a shared phenomenological space, which sounds very similar to what you've seen.
Yeah, and I think that is actually the deeper question, which is, does the DMT space itself is something that we hallucinate or we actually see, which is the question that I started with. What the laser allows us to do is to have a repeatable experience across individuals.
Which is a perfect example of good orthodox science in many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, and it does have this really there kind of quality. It's hard to describe, but even when you quote unquote hallucinate, hallucinations have a trajectory. They evolve, they change across people. Even if people report similar things, they don't always agree on exactly what they're saying. In the case of the laser and what you see in it, at least to date, it seems like what everybody seeing is the exact same thing. We can even point to the same thing.
So this is what I don't understand, because you're seeing literally a language, a symbology, through the refracted laser beam with DMT smoke in the middle.
No, not necessarily. That part is that you don't need to have a smoke in the way.
Because that's what I was about to say. So basically, it's not refracting off the smoke.
No.
It's a consequence of what the DMT is doing inside your brain.
Well, when it's bouncing off a particular surface, yes.
Okay. I know you're very limited in your science, but and so am I.
Sure.
Try and give me a scientific explanation for what you think's going on there.
So I do have a theoretical framework for this, but it sounds a little bit out there. So I think that what's going on here is, as maybe you're aware, the holographic principle is one of the most promising frames in physics at the moment.
The whole idea that we're living in an illusion.
In a so basically the whole universe is a projection from a two-dimensional filament. This idea was uttered before, but it was popularized by Leonard Susskind, who was a very famous physicist, and now even people like Sean Carroll, who's an example of a very mainstream physicist who doesn't usually play with the fringe. Even he says that he thinks it's the most promising idea in physics. Essentially, the whole universe is projected from some kind of a two-dimensional filament on the outskirts of the universe.
See, what I find fascinating is I've recently been trying to get my brain around quantum physics, quantum mechanics. And I've just read a fantastic book by a guy called Rick Patelho called The Full Extent, and he tries to explain to a layman like me the implications of quantum physics in relation to this mechanistic view that we've got of our universe, this place that we're in right now, this world that we're in right now. It's physical, we can touch it, and if it's a physical object or a visual object, we can look at it and we can analyze it and test it. And one of the things that fascinates me, that lies at the heart, I think, of the dilemmas that are expressed by people appearing at this conference, which is, let's be honest, very woo, very spiritual. They're exploring things that can't be mechanistically described in science. There's no deterministic cause and effect. You can't, for somebody who's saying that they're remote viewing, you can't measure that. It's only experiential. Similarly, with what you're describing, how the hell do we scientifically verify something like that? When you're repeating the experiment, and as I understand it, you're seeing, and other people are seeing, the same symbology, aren't you?
Yes, because I think they're looking at the same surface. So the thing I started saying with the hologram, essentially what I think is going on is that in an arrangement of a hologram, you have a light that splits into two, and then each beam, one hits an object, and one goes through a sets of mirror and hits the first beam, and it measures its phase. So when that interaction happens at the screen on which the hologram is being recorded, that information records as the full light field of the object that was recorded. So in a picture, you have amplitude. So if you take a picture of something, you can only look from one direction, and that's how the information was stored. But because you also have the phase in a hologram, it stores information no matter what angle you're going to look from. Every angle contains the full representation of that object in space. That's how holograms work.
So what are you doing here then? Is it cracking the matrix?
Essentially, we're looking through the veil. I think our conscious experience is that reference light that measures the phase, and this is why what I think is going on with the laser is we're looking at the light field before it becomes the content we see. It's almost, think of it like the pre-render.
So it's almost like the computer code behind the graphic user interface we see on our computers.
Yes, that's what I think is going on, and that's actually testable.
So how do you test that?
You need to figure out what constitutes the change of the angle of the reference beam.
So, okay, talk me through this really slowly, Danny.
So if we can figure out what constitutes the angle, if you change an angle of the reference beam...
Because when you change the angle, what happens?
It distorts the image that is being recorded. So a similar thing we should expect a similar thing to happen if that's correct.
And why would that be a verification that this is something real?
Well, at least it would be a verification that we're in the right direction.
Right.
When you have a theory about how things work, you test it by doing a thing that will verify it. And if at least it does a result that you expect, well, then it gives you a hint that you're in the right direction at least.
So when you see this symbology, obviously we can't film or video through the human eye, and you're seeing it under the influence of a psychedelic. But
Yes.
Is there a way of getting the visuals of what you say you're seeing and putting it onto a computer and having a look at it and analyzing it?
So far, no, but we're trying to do everything we can. We managed to take a frozen snapshot of it.
How the hell did you do that?
Actually, just took a very high resolution image of it and then put it in Apple Vision Pro.
Just with a normal camera?
Yeah, just very really, really close with like macro lenses that we put really close to the light field.
So, I mean, clearly the camera wasn't stoned. How is it that a camera can see what you need to use DMT to be able to
well,
see?
it does. Well, I guess that's a correct way of phrasing it. Somehow, either the information passes through, so something is being encoded in light that we don't quite understand. So maybe there's another direction to light that we don't quite understand, or what it means is that it's not appearing in the same way that we think that it appears. It might be that the speckle is scaffolding on top of which the brain actually projects that information.
Now, I was doing a bit of background research, and there's some mention of optical physics work done at the University of Arizona, where they've used laser-induced plasma filaments in air, showing how lasers can create visible patterns in gases. And the suggestion from the skeptics is that that potentially mirrors what you're describing.
They would have to explain the content. The content is the same across everybody. So if you have, by definition, if you have a stochastic pattern, which means a random pattern, then if you postulate that psychedelics, what they do is they basically excite certain regions of the brain to produce certain kinds of content, you wouldn't expect it to be the same across individuals. You might have similarities, but you wouldn't see the exact same thing. That will still have to be addressed.
I mean, what you could do, I guess, while you're looking at these symbols is draw them and write
That's
them down.
very hard. With the frozen image, it's possible. With the real code, the way it appears in real life, it's moving all the time, so it's very difficult to do.
I do know there's research, I've read about this in science journals, that they're developing technology that can actually tap into the optic nerve and see what the eye is seeing. Have you heard about that technology?
Yeah, it's not quite what it's doing. It still relies on a lot of reformulation of the signals. So something in the future like that can really, really help, but yeah.
So Danny Goller, give me your take on what you think you're seeing. What do you think it is?
I think it is the language that the brain speaks in order to make reality what it is.
Wow. You're literally looking at the source code.
Well, at least of our own consciousness. That's what I think it is. So there's actually, just to what you said, I have a friend who is an MIT guy, and he said that actually there's a relatively easy way to test this. He said what you need to do is you need to train a model to create a Rosetta Stone of each person and their brain waves when they're looking at something, as measured by EEG, let's say. Then, if you look at a random pattern, what you would expect if it's a hallucination is that the symbols, the signals that you trained the model to see, they should still differ between people. But if it's trained to see whatever letter that it is that we drew, and then it repeats across individuals when they're looking into the laser, or at least an image of the laser, then you have something serious, because then you should not expect it to be the same.
It's funny, I talk to government scientists in my country, Australia, who speak with some sadness about the way that psychedelics, particularly mushrooms, have been so stigmatised and made taboo because of a general fear of illicit drugs. And they want to help people with trauma, particularly veterans who've come back from horrible wars where they're suffering trauma. And there's a very limited psilocybin study happening in Australia at the moment where it's having astonishing results, I'm told, to help people who've had PTSD. How big a problem for your work has been that there's such a societal stigma about psychedelics and DMT in terms of getting people just to even take you seriously?
You know, I might have gotten lucky. Actually, the same, like, so because I don't come from academia, I feel like I get lucky because I get to say what I want and I don't have to worry about my job. And there's a certain strident tone with which I say it that I think it amassed enough interest. But the truth is that I'm not interested in just bulldozing my way through this. I do think that what we discovered needs to go through the proper ringer of science. We're very, very happy to do so. But so I'll be honest with you, I didn't really experience that. I've actually experienced more welcome from even mainstream scientists.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you think is happening when you undergo a DMT experience? Do you think it's simply just a psychedelic hallucination, or is it something else?
I would defer and encourage everybody to read Reality Switch Technologies by Dr. Andrew Gallimore, and he makes a very strong case for why, even from a neuroscientific perspective, what is most likely happening is that we're changing an address in the mind space, basically.
We're literally going somewhere else.
Exactly. Or, as he more recently been saying, it's more that you flooded with real information, but it's coming to you.
Because if our brain is, as some of the people I talk to about UFOs talk to me about, an attenuator, a transmitter and a receiver, it means that we can physically geolocate in our minds to something else.
Very possible, yes.
So do you think that we're actually geolocating when we take DMT?
I think we are localizing this operational space, yes.
Which is probably already there, it's just that we don't know how to tap into it.
It's almost like what's possible to compute. You are aware of more information that is possible to fold into your computational reality.
A lot of people here watching this will probably be a little bit scared of psychedelics, and of course we're not encouraging anybody to take an illicit drug. We emphasise that. But if, for the purposes of science, Danny Gola wants to do that, by the way, it's decriminalised in Colorado, so that's one of the ways that he's been able to do this.
Yes.
What goes on when somebody takes DMT? Talk me through a typical DMT experience.
I don't know if there's a typical one, but it definitely, the first thing to say is definitely not for everybody. And just like being an astronaut is not for everybody. So it can be very confounding and also very scary for some people. I always say if your barrier and tolerance for novelty is pretty low, it's definitely not for you. But if you are interested in something interesting, it definitely doesn't get more wild and just something that you really are not familiar with. It's completely orthogonal to anything that humans have ever experienced.
I have to admit, I'll give you my account of what happened to me. I mean, I'm a big bloke, and so I took 3 puffs on a vape with a friend of mine in Australia. Nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there and he's off with the pixies, with the machine elves, and he sort of mumbled to me, take another one, and take a big one. And I did. And then all of a sudden I was somewhere else, but it was like I was pulled somewhere else. I had a physical sensation of going through a white wall in front of me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I'm in an absolute, I felt with an absolute certainty I was in another world. Mm-hmm. Does that accord with your experience?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, DMT is known for that it basically takes you somewhere else. What got me interested in DMT originally was a Joe Rogan rant many years ago before his podcast, in which he said, it doesn't feel like you're in another dimension, you are in another dimension.
That's a very strong sense.
And that I knew I was hooked. I was like, whatever that is, I need to know what that is. That sounds something I have to experience. But it really feels like you don't feel high.
No.
It feels the opposite of being high. It's almost like veils are lifted. You feel more clear, but then content flows in that you're simply not familiar with.
And look, I don't know if this is me being a bit corny, but I felt kinder and more tolerant and more peaceful for weeks afterwards.
Why is that corny?
Because I'm a very cynical soul.
Oh, I see.
You know, I think a lot of people that come particularly to a festival like Conscious Life Expo, they expect everybody to be walking around in caftans and beads talking about love and peace. You know, it's very easy to be cynical. But really at the heart of it, I was quite struck by how peaceful and loving it was. I felt welcome.
That's an incredible way of describing it. My position about all this stuff here in the conference and in general is a very similar attitude that, I like quoting Terence McKenna, and this quote definitely goes to the core of it. He said, we can always be skeptical of the enterprise of science, but no one is at liberty to abandon common sense. And I think that common sense does follow you there. But science currently, in its current form, is a little bit limited because they decided that one modality fits all, and that's just simply not true.
Well, mechanistic science, deterministic science, doesn't really have an explanation for what you're talking about. So their default is just to say that Danny's having a hallucination.
Sure.
What's the rebuttal to that? How do you rebut that assertion?
You don't rebuttal, you provide evidence. And that's what we're trying to do. So currently, I can't say that I can show someone like Sean Carroll and say, here, and he's going to be convinced. But I do think we'll get there. I do think we will get some information that will make it beyond a doubt that this is actually real information.
So, talk me through how you do a test, a controlled experiment, to verify what you're seeing.
Well, currently it mostly relies on comparing between different individuals' stories. We built a little tool called veilbreak.ai. It's almost like a repo for the laser experiment, just like GitHub is for code. And people can go there, and it's free, and they can do it anonymously if they want, and they can leave all the information about their experiment. Slowly but surely, we're gathering more and more data, and currently that's the way that we're trying to go about it. But the holy grail that will give us a handle is to see if we can induce any change to either what the code appears to be, or to the observation itself. So if, let's say, I can turn on some kind of a magnetic field around somebody's head, and they see a reliably they can see change to the code, and different people can see the same thing, well, that already puts you in a different ballpark.
Because we already know, don't we, that people are seeing the same thing under DMT. It's not just randomized imagery. People talk about machine elves, for example.
But those are descriptions that are very easy to kind of miss each other on. So that, I would say, that still can be, like, if I want to steelman the other side of the argument, like the more mainstream argument, I could chuck it to archetypes. I can say, hey, maybe the human brain has some kind of a architecture that just sees these kind of archetypes. Now, I happen to not think that, of course, but I'm always playing the game of trying to think how it must feel to be on the receiving end of these kind of claims if you've never done DMT or maybe never will. So in that regard, I feel like reports about beings, they're a little flimsy, even though they can carry some water. What I like about the fact that we can see the code is that it's so highly specific and so repeatable that it really lends itself nicely to a real scientific investigation.
Why can't you reproduce the images that you see? Is it just not possible when you're in a state of psychedelic not hallucination, but when you're under the influence of DMT, is it not possible to use a pencil just to try and describe the symbology?
In reality, when you're looking at it, the symbols are very tiny. There's millions of them, and they're moving a lot. That's what makes it very difficult. But in a frozen image, we now will probably be able to do so, yeah.
Have you been able to mathematically analyze the glyphs? Is there anything mathematical about their placement, their positioning?
Currently, no. But we do have replications of the code, so people did write it down, and there's general agreement.
Do you see a language there at all?
I can show you the symbols that we put so far that a lot of people agreed on, but I don't know if it's language. It definitely looks like symbols.
Do you find expectation plays a role in what happens?
Whatsoever, no. So I even told people to look for something else, and they still saw what they're supposed to see.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I threw their scent off, and they said, I didn't see what you said, but I saw these weird Asian-looking characters.
And are you the first person to do this, to put this through refracted light?
As far as I know, I'm the first one to put two and two together that you can do this with a diffracted laser. That being said, I do have an occasional email of people saying, oh, we used to play with lasers like 15 years ago and we saw something similar, we just never thought of anything of it.
Why could a camera, like I'm still wrestling with that idea, why would a conventional camera be able to see what you're seeing going into that other realm, if you like?
No idea.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
There's no explanation.
Well,
Yeah.
so far, I mean, look, the reality is that I've kind of created a lot of hype around this, which is nice because a lot of some very smart people actually entered the picture and helping us with this investigation. But because it's happening in the limelight to some degree, there's a certain level of expectation of this project that no other scientific endeavor ever is expected of. So like, science progress sometimes takes 20 years in some domains. So we don't know, but hopefully it won't take us 20 years, but hopefully within a year or two we'll have something to report.
The thing I find fascinating about this is if it's true that you are going to other realms and you're finding a way of doing a controlled, maybe even peer-reviewed study that allows you to verify this scientifically, you'd be the world's first psychonaut, wouldn't you? You're literally traversing.
I mean, there's a lot of psychonauts in the world.
No, but you'd be traversing consciousness. You'd be exploring backstage in human consciousness.
I do think we're starting to play with real possibilities of actual sending potentially like representatives from humanity, like the real diplomats from humanity to the other realms, yes.
Have you had conversations with beings while you've been under the influence of DMT?
Yes, talk to them all the time.
And what do they say?
Verbatim?
Yeah.
No?
What sort of things? What sort of things are they saying to you?
That this is a simulation.
So they're telling you it's a simulation.
Yes, they showed it to me.
And do you believe that they're intelligent? That this is a real intelligence?
Oh yeah, they're way more intelligent than us, for sure. Yeah.
I've had people tell me that they've been there and the beings have said to them, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here."
That happens too, yeah. Depending where you travel, I guess. So they have, I guess, what you would call their government, but they also have just, it's almost like when you go to the psychedelic space, I know how wild it must sound to a lot of people, but it's almost like going to interdimensional New York. Like just grabbing somebody off the street and asking them about the secrets of the universe. They might know something, they might just try and sell you a watch, So,
yeah. So you literally walk up to a being and tell me what's happening here.
Well, I've identified, again, just to be clear, according to what I believe is going on, of course, I've identified a signal that belongs to their government. So like I'm only reporting the things that I know that is being expressed to me directly by kind of people in charge versus people, yeah. So
are you welcome there?
It seems that way, yeah.
They don't resent your intrusion on their world if they are a real world?
They know me very well. I'm not claiming to have any special relationship with them. A lot of people visit them, and I know a lot of people report them and have a pretty positive relationship with them. If I understand correctly from them, what's going on is that we enter the stage where we start to understand things on a level that very quickly we will figure it out anyway. So they have a protocol to help us understand and kind of cushion the ontological shock, basically.
There's a friend of mine in Europe who works in a laboratory and he created some pure DMT himself, obviously illegal and not something we recommend for folks to do back at home. But he intravenously applied it to himself and basically went on an hours-long psychedelic experience. Do you do that at all?
I've done it once. I went on for 5 hours.
5 hours?
5 hours, and it was 464 milligrams, which to the best of my knowledge, it's a world record so far.
464 milligrams?
Yes.
And so one of the things that struck me, and a lot of people I've talked to about this who've had these experiences, they say it all feels so rushed. Because when you vape it, when you smoke it, you've really only got about 2 or 3 minutes before you come back into reality. Mm-hmm. And you come back with a plonk, and it's always quite frankly disappointing because it is such an intriguing environment. So the intravenous application of DMT is a way to have an intense experience. Do you ever worry about getting lost?
DMT is not one of these things that I think you can get lost in. I think the LSD you can get lost. I think you can get lost in mushrooms. DMT is just too matter of fact for me. I'm sure that some people with tendency for schizophrenia and things like this maybe should not play with this.
Sure.
But if you have a pretty stable mind, I think you're fine. I think DMT is just almost like visiting a place. Now, obviously, if it gets intense, you can always ask people to stop that. But
Maybe explain to our audience what is DMT and how does it work in the human body?
DMT stands for dimethyltryptamine. It's a neuromodulator. Our body makes it, and it's in a lot of living things. We don't really know what it's doing in the system, but we now have strong reasons to believe that, at least we know in rats, a study that was done by Dr. John Dean in 2019, he discovered that there's comparable amounts of the precursor to DMT in their intracranial fluid to dopamine and serotonin during waking hours. So we do know that if humans anywhere near what rats have, that means that we have comparable amounts to very regular neurotransmitters like your dopamine and so it's doing something substantial in the system.
And how was DMT discovered?
Let's see if I think it was in the 1950s. I forget who synthesized it first. I should probably know this, I forget the name, but I think in the 1950s, if I'm not mistaken.
Thinking ahead, if you are able to master this, what applications could it have? How could it help us as humanity?
Well, if it's real, then it can help us understand what the world really is in deeper ways. But if we'll discover it's just a very fancy trick of the brain, it will still teach us something very fundamental about consciousness.
And where do you err at the moment? Obviously you're keeping an open mind. Scientific, skeptical, orthodox science basically says this is all rubbish. It's just pareidolia. It's
Sure.
you seeing hallucinations. This has been recorded before through other systems.
Sure.
What do you say?
Nothing. You proceed to try and find proof and evidence. That's how science works, and that's how it should work. Although, if I may, it is, and I'm saying it only a little bit in tongue-in-cheek, it does remind me a little bit of Copernicus, because essentially the Catholic Church said we don't want to look.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing.
Are there people who tell you that what you're doing is demonic, that you're inviting yourself into other realms that
Sure,
are dangerous?
people think of this all the time, but I've also visited, what you would call angelic realms, and everybody knows very well what I'm doing. So,
what do you mean you've visited angelic realms?
Well, if you want to say that I'm inviting demons, right? I think we can tell the difference when we're in the presence of one or in the presence of something more divine.
Right.
And if you don't think we can tell the difference, then I don't know how you think you know, right? But if you're saying that you think you know this, then I think I know when I'm in the presence of one or the other. And I have definitely been in the presence of divine beings.
Wow.
And the irony is that with all these conspiracy theories that we believe in, which of course humans conspire all the time, the truth is not only not a conspiracy, it's not a secret. It's just a matter of, do you understand? Can you open your mind to understand?
I'm fascinated by the way that psychedelics have been so demonized in our society, and yet they serve often quite a useful therapeutic purpose. The history of it's quite interesting, isn't it? Why would conventional science, do you believe there's a deliberate attempt to suppress understanding of what this can do?
I actually don't. I think that it's mostly a product of institutions freaking out because there was a lot of very irresponsible instances. People say, the government outlawed LSD because people would free their minds. But again,
But ironically, the people who committed the most crimes with LSD were the CIA.
Sure, but also...
I just find it mind-blowing that here we are in California, and 50, 60 years ago, the CIA was, without knowledge of the people involved, injecting prisoners with LSD.
Awful.
Massive quantities of LSD.
Awful.
And similarly doing it in a brothel up in San Francisco. The crimes being committed by the government to try and find a way of controlling the human mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But they failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they knew that it's not actually doing the thing that they wanted it to do. I think it was mostly because babies were drifting to traffic by themselves. I think that was the main reason as to why they outlawed it, honestly.
So what does, say, Andrew Gallimore say about what you're seeing?
So Andrew started by kind of chucking this to just another person telling him something wild. But after a few years that he saw that this was gaining traction, he decided to comment on it. We then reconvened, we spoke about it, and he relaxed a lot around how I go about this because he understood that I am interested in what's true and not just kind of pushing an agenda.
Now, forgive me if I get any of this wrong,
Sure.
Danny, but ayahuasca, that's essentially naturally created DMT, is that correct?
No, ayahuasca is basically a brew that mixes another plant that allows for DMT to be digested.
Ah, right. Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
essentially, it's releasing DMT. One plant releases DMT in a way. So it's the same kind of experience, is it?
It just coats. It just suppresses the enzymes in the stomach that break down DMT, so you can ingest it. Because if you swallow a bag of pure DMT right now, nothing will happen.
Right.
You have to smoke it. But if you do it with the MAOIs, then you're basically allowing the body to digest it, and then it lasts longer.
Right.
About 6 hours.
So the ayahuasca experience, a lot of people who've had ayahuasca, they describe to me that it's almost a therapeutic, that it's a kind of a life review thing. Do you find that with DMT as well?
Less. DMT feels more like the main artery. I always describe ayahuasca as the human channel and DMT as the full spectrum.
So you've done ayahuasca, obviously.
Yeah.
What's the difference, Key, in terms of experience?
It's much more visceral. It's very the human drama kind of vibe. DMT is more aliens in 3 million years in the future kind of vibe.
And do you think they are aliens?
I mean, they're not us, so yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting because this all sounds wacky, and for a lot of our audience, we're in this mechanistic world, this physical reality, and yet I'm fascinated by having read Rick Botelho's book. Quantum mechanics makes it clear that everything in this reality is a product of consciousness.
Yeah.
That it's consciousness that derives what we see, and observation actually affects our reality.
Yeah.
And that's scientifically proven in quantum physics.
That's already a stretch. That's a lot of physicists would disagree with that statement.
Really?
Yeah.
But we are wrestling, aren't we, with the fact that we've got this mechanistic view of science and then the new quantum mechanics. And it sounds to me like what you're doing is you're at the edge of consciousness studies in the field of quantum mechanics, because a lot of what you're describing accords with what quantum mechanics says about the universe.
I do think that what consciousness is quantum mechanics solidifying into one channel. This feels like one classical world. So they are interlinked. I do think that consciousness is basically what quantum mechanics collapsing into one reality feels like, basically.
So, because we've had a lot of talks with people today in other interviews talking about whether the human brain is just a meat computer. Mm-hmm. And that when we die, our neurons die with us, and the illusion of consciousness, the illusion of free will, the illusion of a soul dies with us and just rots and falls back into the ground. The interesting thing to me is that the implications of what modern science is now starting to say is that consciousness is non-local, and that we're able to tap into a field, even a possible cosmic internet.
I would say that there's some evidence for this, yes.
Have you ever come across people, scientists, creatives, who've described how they've had these incredible ideas that have just come from nowhere? I mean, I was reading, for example, about Paul McCartney. He woke up and he had the music for Yesterday, one of his most famous songs, in his head. And all he did was get out of bed and write it. And he had no idea where it had come from. It was a perfectly formed piece of music, and he couldn't explain and still can't explain where that came from. And then there's the guy who developed the idea of the benzene molecule, and he had a dream of a snake eating its tail. And right through science and creativity with artists, Salvador Dali, he used to apparently go to sleep in a chair with a pen in his hand, and when he woke up, when he dropped the pen, and he'd wake up as the pen hit the floor, and then he would get his ideas about all of his floppy clock faces and all these wacky ideas of what he was seeing in his dreams, and immediately start rendering them into art. Do you think it's possible that what you're tapping into with DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is illustrating a capacity of the human brain that I think we're at the edges at in consciousness studies? There's a fringe group of scientists who are saying that we're not just meat computers, we're actually capable of being attenuators and tapping into the, if you like, the cosmic internet, the cosmic consciousness.
Absolutely. I just think that those ideas also are not mutually exclusive. You can be a meat computer that taps to the universal consciousness.
It's a horrible thought, though, isn't it? Because I hope you're right.
Yeah, like everybody else, I hope we live forever, right? But the truth is that I think that all of these ideas of higher self and the thing beyond this, I think the reality of it, I do think that something else is happening, like this is not the end, so to speak. But I do also think that whatever that is, it doesn't continue as what you experience yourself to be. I always say the higher self is not a self. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think people still need to grapple with that. Like, this is it. This. We should enjoy this. I think
life is a privilege. It's
Yeah,
a pleasure.
yeah.
But Danny Gola, you're taking us somewhere else, and you're the cutting edge of, I think, something quite exciting.
Thank you. I definitely think so, and hopefully we'll be blowing some minds within a year.
You think within a year you'll have some results?
I think we'll have something that will start talking to mainstream science.
And are there mainstream scientists who are starting to take an interest in your work?
Yes.
What about government, the dark forces of government? Are they interested?
The light forces of government. I met some pretty amazing people that work for the government. I don't know if they're the government, but I definitely met some people who have influence that saw what I'm talking about, and they were blown away. And they said that if I ever need anything, but...
Because I can tell you, the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency, they're deep into consciousness studies.
That I know.
Even though they deny having a remote viewing program, even though they deny a lot of psychical studies ever since the Stargate experiments that were done.
Have you ever played with that? Remote viewing and things like this?
I have.
Did you succeed?
I didn't think I had, and then this lady that I was doing it with told me I probably had. I think it's early days for me. One of my problems is I do so much traveling that when I try and meditate or put myself into a peaceful state, I immediately fall to sleep. So I'm still working on that state. But a lot of people, quite ordinary, normal people that I've met, have told me that remote viewing can be done by everyone.
That's what I hear. I've never managed to do it, but this. I read this. There's this short biography by the famous physicist Richard Feynman. Surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman. And in it, I was surprised to learn, it's his own words, apparently he managed to do it. He just explained it away to something else. He used to go to isolation tanks. This is, again, told by him. And he managed to train his attention to move to different parts of the body, and then he managed to just leave the body and go somewhere else. He called it the trick of the mind. But without a doubt, he was basically remote viewing.
There is a bit of a problem in orthodox science that when you're confronted with something that is so anomalous and confronting to your understanding of reality, there's a tendency to say, it can't be, therefore it isn't.
To his credit, because how open-minded he really was, and that was one of the biggest strengths in his brilliance, he didn't quite go that far. He didn't kind of explain it away, but he did think that it's more likely some kind of a trick of the brain. But he was very open to a lot of these propositions. He said the only reason he didn't do LSD was because he was afraid he might lose some of his ability to be a really good physicist. But I'm saying it to the effect that even people that are very smart but open-minded very often can do things that most of mainstream science doesn't want to accept. But I think eventually it will have to. If I may, I have this dream. The dream is that what a mature science of humanity is, capital S science, is just the enterprise of understanding.
What do you mean by that?
Well, currently science is only considered the things that we can measure with other devices.
Sure.
But that's not science. Science is just humans trying to understand the world, period. Modality shouldn't be limited to just the thing that we currently know how to do.
Well, wouldn't it be a tragedy if, because of the tools that we're using at the moment scientifically to understand our world, we're limiting our ability to understand things?
Exactly.
And you're using a new tool that is taking you into what is potentially another realm.
Yeah. Currently, the only measuring devices, if you want to call it that, is other people's observations. So eventually, we might be able to understand how to actually do it through external devices. But until that day comes, we should still rely on the ability of honest reporters about what they see. And I think that's not less science than anything else. Meditation, for example, I consider the science of the inner world, in that you observe something closely, your inner attention. You find ways to repeat whatever it is that you discover that is possible. You can communicate it to other people and they can repeat that themselves. And we can measure that. There's now very broad studies of people's brains on meditation, and we know it's different.
It's interesting because I know that for some of the people who are very accomplished remote viewers, some of what they describe bears an eerie resemblance to what you're describing.
Code?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I might be able to introduce you to somebody
Please.
that I know.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it's possible that people can achieve with their brains just by remote viewing. Of course, these things don't exist according to conventional science. But is it possible that people might be able to tap in using their own brains without the enhancement of DMT?
Absolutely. In fact, me and my partner, David Carter, with Code of Reality, we're in dialogue with a lot of people who are reporting these kind of things. I've never heard actually code, but there's more and more reports of people seeing machinery, menus, and some of these people, they always ask to stay anonymous because they're lawyers, they're doctors. They say, I'm going to lose my license, but I'm telling you, I see these things. So it's way more common than people think.
Wow. Well, Danny Kohler, you've made us think. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much, Ross. I
Good on
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. Right now, the controversial discovery that's either a devious hoax or some believe could shatter everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. We travelled to Peru, chasing claims of a mystery buried for 1,000 years. These apparent creatures originating from a site filled with ancient mystery. Now you can make your own judgment. We're told some of these alleged mummified remains you'll see today have never been seen before. Small, strange, and some experts claim non-human. Are these ancient relics an elaborate hoax, or could they be evidence of extraterrestrial life? We've got exclusive access, new analysis, and explosive reactions from scientists, skeptics, and believers. Are these alien mummies? If this is real, history books get rewritten. Religions are questioned and humanity gets a wake-up call from the cosmos. The question is no longer, are we alone? It's, have they been here all along? Today, Reality Check with Ross Coulthart, Ancient Mummy Mystery. G'day and welcome to this special edition of Reality Check on NewsNation. I'm your host, Ross Coulthart. Today we're exploring an ancient mystery that puts the question of whether we humans are the only intelligent life in the universe front and centre. Grave robbers, known locally in Peru as huequeros, claim to have stumbled upon desiccated bodies in a remote location north of the Nazca Desert, so-called tridactyl three-fingered beings. These purported tridactyl mummies present as supposedly intact beings, three-fingered, three-toed, with elongated skulls, large eye sockets, and bodies coated in a white, powdery, diatomaceous earth, made out of a natural preservative from old algae. Now, they've been dubbed the Nazca mummies. Now, it's probably a bit confusing to call them the Nazca mummies because they are, in fact, a range of beings. First up, there are small reptilian-like beings. Then there are, believe it or not, insectoid beings with wings, ranging right through to larger humanoid beings. They quickly gathered global imagination. Were they evidence of a pre-existing extraterrestrial civilization, or are they just an elaborate and devious hoax? We visited Peru to see firsthand and up close multiple sets of bodies that some claim to be definitive proof of not only that aliens have visited this planet, but they've been here for centuries. We set out to investigate these claims, and there are, as we've discovered, good reasons to be highly sceptical. But we do believe that whatever these objects are, they do warrant rigorous, independent scientific investigation. My recent trip to Peru took us to the skies to investigate the mysterious Nazca lines. These vast ancient geoglyphs carved into the earth thousands of years ago form precise shapes of animals, plants and geometric patterns so large they can only be properly seen from the air. Which brings us to an obvious question. Why would a society without flight technology take the time to craft such a display? Nazca is the site of much mystery, which challenges our modern understanding, and it's the location of the first set of mysterious so-called tridactyl mummies, which I saw during my reporting trip. This particular set have been seen before, and they inspire heated, frothing debate between advocates and debunkers, starting with this, a highly controversial hearing that took the world by storm.
Mexico holds its first ever hearing on UFOs, with scientists putting on display what they claim are the remains of two extraterrestrials.
It's extraordinary claims and extraordinary controversy from Mexico City in 2023. Where lawmakers were shown what some claim are the remains of extraterrestrial beings. But what's fact and what's fiction? Journalist and ufologist Jaime Maussan brought two small bodies into a packed congressional hearing on UAPs. These shriveled specimens, about a foot tall, with large heads and three-fingered hands, were presented in glass boxes. They are supposedly 1,000-year-old non-human beings, not related to any known Earth species.
Porque es lo más importante que le ha pasado a la humanidad.
It is the most important thing that has happened to humanity because it's the opportunity for us to evolve, for us to grow, for us to maybe initiate communication with other intelligences. I think this phenomenon is the only one that gives us the opportunity to come together.
Maussan told lawmakers the bodies were found buried in Peru, and that initial tests showed unusually high percentages of unknown DNA. We are not alone, he declared in the chamber. But Maussan himself is no stranger to controversy.
I was questioning whether these alien babies that Mexico has released photos of could really be real.
So, it's okay to chuckle, okay? I think the way that it was presented was theatrical. It was a big mistake. This was not ready for prime time, but it was not the right way to do it. Suppose this is real. I mean, they come out with kind of like coffins and bring them out, and Jaime Maussan's an acquaintance of mine, but I'll just say this, Jaime is like a showman. And I've never known him to hoax anything, okay, but he'll promote anything. He won't question anything, and so he's not the objective person I would have had come out to reveal this.
Scientists and forensic experts are skeptical, pointing out that specimens touted by Maussan in the past turned out to be human remains. Other international researchers say the so-called alien bodies are fabricated or modified human mummies rather than extraterrestrials.
There is a lot of skepticism here about whether these are real, whether this is legitimate. We ourselves can't verify any of this, so we are skeptical about what we're seeing here in NewsNation when it comes to the origins of these things in this video. Nonetheless, these displays were a part of a legitimate Mexican congressional hearing. Ryan Graves, the former Navy pilot who actually testified before the U.S. Congress back in July, he was also there sharing his story and his experiences with UAPs.
Greetings. Thank you for convening this public hearing.
When Ryan Graves testified, he said, in part, to understand these phenomena, we need to collect information. Because all phenomena in the airspace are reported, they are not isolated, they are routine. Both military and commercial pilots recognise and officially report these. Investigating these phenomena is really important. We also collect a lot of data that solves these mysteries, and this is a global phenomenon. So collaboration is important. Shortly after giving that speech, Graves distanced himself from the hearing, calling it a stunt. He posts on X, unfortunately, yesterday's demonstration was a huge step backwards for this issue. My testimony centred on sharing my experience and the unidentified aerial phenomena reports I hear from commercial and military aircrew through ASA's witness program, read his statement. I will continue to raise awareness of UAP as an urgent matter of aerospace safety, national security and science. But I am deeply disappointed by this unsubstantiated stunt. Mexican doctors did perform X-rays on the remains of the alleged aliens. They say the supposed alien corpses have one single skeleton and were not assembled or manipulated. Many scientists dispute the claim these are non-humans, and the Peruvian government says they are pre-Hispanic objects. While the presentation excited UFO enthusiasts, Mexico's government did not officially declare these as proof of alien life.
Giorgio, you say that you used to ride your mountain bike over there.
But as any journalist should do, I wanted to see for myself. Now, as an investigative journalist myself, I've been intrigued by the reports about these so-called tridactyl mummies. And because I was travelling to Peru for a trip to the megalithic ruins, I took the opportunity to take side trips while I was there to go and see the 3 sets of remains that were available for viewing. This is what we found. Oh, so we can't go in?
No, we have to steal. That's why there is
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's happened a few times. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's focus on Maria. What can you tell me about Maria, Professor?
¿Qué me podría decir acerca de María, profesor?
Mire, equivocadamente le estábamos denominando María. Ahora, de acuerdo al examen sexual o de sexo, se ha llegado a la conclusión de que es Mario, es macho.
But we finally discovered that she would have to be Mario.
Oh, she's a male.
Sí, Mario. Ven la cabeza elongada, como dijimos, ¿no? La cabeza larga. No hay pabellón auricular.
No earlobe.
Los ojos son tremendos, o sea, la cuenca ocular demasiadamente grande. Tenemos una nariz pequeña.
And a very small nose.
The suggestion is that this being is the result of hybridization. Somebody manipulated its DNA artificially to create this being. This intrigues me because that is obviously, it looks like a different species from this species. Is it?
Completamente. Por lo que he visto, por lo menos tenemos unos 5 o 6 especies.
As we have seen, as of today, we have seen like about 5 or 6 different species.
5 or 6 different species.
Definitivamente.
And is one of these reptilian?
Esta es la que pensamos que son las
So
reptilianas.
this is Albert.
Sí.
And why do you say it's reptilian? What are the features that make it reptilian?
Por todas las características que tiene.
Besides the larger head in relation to the body, they have scales.
Scales?
Scales, like a reptilian scale.
Ahora, estos no tienen como tienen el humano tibia, peroné, ni cúbito, ni radio. Son solamente una sola pieza.
The peroné bone, the cubic bone, they do not have those bones.
Forgive me, I am a natural skeptic. I look at Albert and I think it looks artificial. It looks like a doll. Could it have been a real creature? It looks barely plausible as a living being.
Nosotros hicimos el examen de Albert.
We analyzed Albert.
Sí, le hemos hecho una ventana en la cabeza.
And open a window on the skull.
En el cuerpo, o sea, en el intercostal derecho.
On the right intracostal rib.
Cuando hicimos el corte, son tejidos, ¿no? Son tejidos. Y cuando
And we found tissues.
hicimos una ventana, encontramos que tiene masa encefálica.
And when we opened the skull, we found brain mass.
Y en el costal derecho hay un órgano parecido al hígado.
And on the right side of the rib, intercostal opening, we found an organ that resembles the liver.
Llevamos al laboratorio de la UNI.
We took the samples to the National University of Engineering, which is a very serious university, by the way. And they found that it was organic material, not as the detractors were saying that it is made of wool, it's filled with carton. No, it was organic.
Are there any implants in any of these beings?
Que María, no lo hemos visto, María dice que tiene.
Some of the other samples have several implants, some of them with gold, some of them more with copper, etc. These ones we know, for example, Maria has an implant in the sacrum, inside the bone. It seems that she has an implant in the sacrum.
And you mentioned Albert had an implant.
También parece que tiene por la pierna.
Yes, and Albert seems to have an implant by the hip, or the femur.
La unión del sacro con el fémur.
Yeah, at the joint of the sacrum and the femur.
Is there resistance from the Peruvian government to help get to the bottom of what these beings are?
Demasiado. Yo no sé cuál es la intención, pero demasiado.
Yes, there is plenty.
Hemos
I don't know
sufrido
their intentions, but there are plenty.
acoso constante, ¿no?, de querer llevarse estos cuerpos.
Yes, there has been plenty of harassment. They have tried to take them away several times. And I don't know why, because the government doesn't have the personnel, doesn't have the equipment, while the university can sign agreements with other universities, with laboratories, etc. So I don't know why this is happening.
Can we ask the professor, who or what do you think is behind this, these pressure tactics? Because the Peruvian government could benefit immensely from tourism, controlled tourism, to see these beings, once the studies have been conducted.
Siempre me pregunto eso, ¿quién? ¿De dónde viene
That's
todo
what I
esto?
also ask myself. I don't know where that opposition is coming from.
Habría que ver de dónde. Pero lo cierto es que
I was also suspicious of their intent. Maybe we thought that they wanted to disappear the ones that are here in front of us. But since then, I mean, many more bodies have appeared. And and now also the little ones, the small ones, even more. We've learned that there are even more of those bodies.
What do you say to people around the world? I think most people around the world have read news stories telling them that these are just fake objects. What do you say to those people?
Miren, quiero darles a ellos.
They're completely delicate bodies. If we wanted to add a phalange to them or an extra finger or change them like that, they would break. We have been sued because of these, falsely sued, accusing us of modifying bodies and stuff. You can see for yourselves the head, the characteristics. When you analyze the CT scans carefully, people that know, they will find that They are organic, integral beings.
Final question, sir. If these are real, obviously the implications are huge for humanity. Would it be fair to say that your biggest fear is that this may continue to be suppressed history?
Bueno, yo ya no creo en eso.
There are other discoveries that are perhaps complementing, I would say, what we are seeing here with the bodies. For example, this craft flying around in the atmosphere that are being discussed more openly nowadays. And maybe these bodies would corroborate that we have been visited also in the past.
So what can we do to assist you to get further investigation to confirm that hybridization?
Bueno, la ayuda la están haciendo ustedes.
Yes, by letting know about the existence of these beings that humanity has the right to know.
Do you worry about the ridicule and stigma that is attached to talking about UFOs?
Bueno, no, más bien me complace eso.
It pleases me that those findings are perhaps correlating with these ones. And it makes me wonder why the similar beings have been seen and depicted in different parts of the world as well.
Well, it's good science to ask the question, sir. So thank you so much for showing these to us. Now, the proponents argue, of course, that these are authentic, ancient beings, perhaps tied to the Paracas culture's skull elongation practices, supported by international experts like forensic scientist Dr. John McDowell and a Mexican forensic doctor, Dr. Zalche Benitez. These doctors, working for the Mexican team, claim there's seamless anatomical integration in the scans. There's no cut marks, no fabrication, and there's ongoing research that dismisses debunking as incomplete. But hold on, such extraordinary claims require rigorous, independent scientific investigation. And so just in the last month or so, very legitimate criticisms have been raised about the authenticity of these objects that do raise, I think, very serious doubts. Bioanthropologists and radiologists argue that these are elaborate hoaxes pieced together from pre-Hispanic human remains, outrageously, and animal bones, including bits of llamas, even modern synthetics. Now, the Peruvian Ministry of Culture has repeatedly tried to seize many of these objects, labelling them as fraudulent constructions desecrating ancestral graves. There was a 2023 airport interception in Peru of dressed figurines that showed they were constructed from glue and mixed parts, although proponents said they were never intended to be represented as real objects, they were just replicas. But first, let's investigate these other alleged ancient beings firsthand. Imagine you're in Lima, Peru, as we are, and somebody tells you, would you like to come and see an alien? Now, obviously we don't know that they are aliens, but we are on our way to a secret location somewhere here in this enormous city to have a look at some tridactyl beings with 3 fingers, elongated heads that may or may not be alien beings. Now, my first instinct, of course, is to be dismissive and think very skeptically that this is all a load of nonsense. But for months now, in fact for years, the official story has been that these beings are just hoaxes, that they're just dolls made of, in some cases, human and animal bones and put together and made to look like alien beings. But there's been a body of evidence come out now, including a reputable forensic science team from America and Peruvian scientists who've done a lot of work now looking at both DNA analysis and CT, CAT scan analysis of some of these bodies. And what they've found is really quite amazing. These bodies do appear to be real beings of some kind. And not only are they not human, they have elongated heads, they have, in some cases, there's one that has eggs in her belly. She was pregnant, but she had reptilian eggs in her belly. If this is all true, we may be looking at the possibility that we're on our way to see a highly advanced life form that once used to exist on this planet. Another fantastic mystery on the road with Reality Check. Well, here we are at an undisclosed location somewhere in Lima, Peru, and we're about to see what the hosts tell us may well be alien beings.
What I wonder is whether these specimens, is that what we call them? Whether they're going to actually eventually be moved to the university in Ica for, you know, the sort of scrutiny and study that other bodies are currently undergoing.
It's a measure, though, apparently, of the sensitivity of this, even now with the Peruvian Ministry of Culture. They're worried about these getting taken back off them. So we're not allowed to know where this location is. We're not allowed to reveal where this location is.
We've been told nothing.
But the simple fact is they're concerned that good science may be hindered by an official unwillingness for this story to be told.
That's right.
Let's go and have a look.
Let's go see.
Hello, hey Joa, how are you? Nice to see you. Dr. David. G'day, good to meet you. I'm Ross Coulthard. Nice to meet you, sir.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Igualmente.
Looks human to me.
Disculpa, pero parece humano. ¿Le parece humano?
Could it be a human hybrid?
¿Podría ser un humano híbrido?
Sagittal suture.
Maybe.
So what is different between that and a human?
¿Cuál es la diferencia entre eso y un humano?
So tridactyl, yeah.
Y esos son tres dedos obviamente originales.
And these are obviously three original three fingers.
No tiene mutilación.
So fingers or feet.
Without mutilation.
So those are feet, yes?
Those are feet.
Yeah.
Es porque le hayan deformado el cráneo por fuera.
But for example, the size of the body of this 2 or 3 year old is too small in relation to the head to say that the cranium, the skull has been elongated artificially.
So this is the skull is unusually elongated, yes?
O sea que el cráneo está inusualmente alargado.
Claro. Sí. El proceso de elongación toma varios años.
Plus, the elongation of the skull process takes several years when it's artificially done.
Because that was my next question, is that there is, I know that in previous civilizations in this part of the world, there was a practice of elongating skulls, which of course may well have been replicating. If this is a species prior to that period, it may have endeavored to replicate that. But how do we know that the elongation we see on this skull is not a result of artificial practices?
Este niño recién tiene 2 a 3 años.
Because the artificial process requires a compressing of the cranium.
And so you could see that. You can see that.
And that's not happening here. And it takes several years. And this little boy had probably 2 or 3 years of age, so he wouldn't have been able to complete them.
Are any of the beings that you have possession of, do any of them have artificial implants?
And this one does have 2 or 3 implants.
So what's...
Acá.
Gosh. What was the purpose of the implant?
Bueno, ahí tendremos que estar especulando.
No, then we would need to speculate about it.
Right.
That's right.
Bien. El de la nuca de acá.
The one on the neck.
Suponemos que estaba tratando de retener el cuello porque tiene una lesión cervical severa.
We suppose that he was trying to protect the neck because the being has a severe lesion on the neck, in the neck.
A fracture or just a wound?
Severa.
A fracture. Oh, so cervical fracture. Okay. But then, Doctor, if they're not fakes, what are they?
Son las tomografías de los cuerpos físicos que vas a ver ahora.
They're the CT scans of the physical bodies that you will see now.
Oh, let's see them. So, Doctor, we know that this is about a 2-year-old child. Is that correct? This
is un niño de 2 años, prácticamente.
Sí, pero un niño de 2 años no tiene la cabeza tan larga.
But a 2-year-old doesn't have that kind of
So can you explain to our audience, obviously some of it's obvious, but please just point out what are the anatomical differences between a regular human child and what we are seeing here?
Primero, quisiera que nos enfoquemos en los ojos.
First, let's focus our attention on the eyes.
Si miras el ojo, por favor, mira este ojo.
Yeah.
Ojo,
Look at the eye.
tiene una inclinación de 45 grados.
It has a 45-degree slant.
Quiere decir, el tendón cantal interno está
Okay, this tendon,
como
the external one is too high up.
Wow. And so,
And the internal one is too low.
and the nose is almost flat.
Can you explain to us the auditory organs or functions of this being? Does it have any?
Because it has no ears.
no tiene orejas.
Yes, it doesn't have ears.
No tiene orejas acá, visibles,
No
y
visible
tampoco
ears.
tiene indicios de oreja en la tomografía.
And also in the CT scan, it doesn't have signs that it had an ear.
No ear canal.
Does it have the same organs as humans?
Los residuos de órganos que hemos encontrado son similares a los humanos.
Yes, the remnants of the organs are similar to those of humans.
Right, and obviously the most obvious difference is the 3 digits on the feet and the hands.
The 3 fingers and feet and hands, the form of the head, the skull, and the eyes.
How much larger than a conventional human infant's head is that head?
Ah, es que no.
When we do the tomographic study, we cannot easily compare it with that of humans because it doesn't fit with the human conventional measurement.
Is the brain the normal shape of a human brain?
No, lo que se encuentra.
No, what can be seen are residues of the desiccated brain inside.
Now, I'm really struck by the similarity between this head and the eyes and what is often described about non-human beings by people who've had alleged experiences with non-human intelligences. You know, don't you think, JP, it looks a bit like the grey head, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
What is the name of this next being?
Sebastián.
Oh yeah, look at that. Wow.
Beautiful aesthetically too, you know. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Is there any medical evidence or suggestion that there were covers that would have covered those eye slits that are at a very sort of sharp 45-degree angle?
No. Si ves las órbitas.
The human eye sockets are not as wide as.
These are very large.
So whatever this is, it had wider eye sockets and apparently larger eyes than a normal human.
Because the reason I asked about the covers is because what a lot of experiencers talk about is the fact that they have very large black.
That's exactly where I was going.
Black eyes, and I'm wondering whether these were there were pupils inside of these slits, but there was some form of protection.
Yeah, pero no hay forma.
Right now, there's no way to make that analogy because that kind of tissue would become almost like a
Pero
dust.
me gustaría que veas esa imagen de allí.
But it really does.
I expected that answer, but I have to ask the question.
You know, it does. It does beg the question. I mean, what I find uncanny about this is if you look at the description of the conventional grey alien being, they have these gigantic eyes, the enlarged, elongated head. It's quite chilling to see something like this here. What implants are there inside this being that you can tell us about?
Implantes.
El de acá, si lo ves,
The one on the back of the head
es este,
the back of the neck,
el que te conté que estaba en la nuca.
which in my supposition it is holding the cervical region because it has a severe trauma. You can see it also has symbols.
Really?
Yeah.
What do the symbols show? Can we see the symbols?
Yeah, you can see the symbols.
Oh my goodness.
Son cosas que no se entienden nada.
What are they? What do they show?
Por la tomografía
More implants, yeah.
tiene implantes, pero nosotros
Okay. And we do not want to get rid of the dust, of this powder, of the diatomaceous earth. It's preserving the DNA.
Sure.
So we haven't, cleansed it.
But just so I'm clear, based on the DNA tests done on Maria, if Maria is 1800 years old, this being is at least 1800 years old.
Nuestra civilización, no.
Not our civilization.
I mean, it suggests, doesn't it, that there was a prior, potentially non-human civilization.
Nuestra civilización no manejaba el osmio como hemos encontrado en los implantes en otros.
Our civilization did not use osmium as in the implants that we have found in the other.
Osmium was a relatively modern discovery compared to the dating of this.
Modern and very rare.
Yes.
You need tons of aluminum ore to get a little bit of osmium.
It's intriguing. What a mystery.
Look at the tips of the fingers. La punta de los dedos.
Sí, en la puntita de los dedos.
The digital imprints are there.
The fingerprints.
Yeah. De todos estos cuerpos son transversales.
So they don't have human fingerprints at all. They're just flat lines.
90 degrees to the rest of the fingers.
Wow. I'm ready. I'm excited to see Montserrat. Much bigger. She is protecting her baby.
Sí, exacto.
Yeah.
Y se han muerto.
She has a wound in the thorax that exsanguinated her and killed her.
Y su corazón está colapsado.
And her heart collapsed.
Do you believe she
en
was...
todos los demás cuerpos encontramos el corazón no colapsado. Encontramos el corazón.
All the other bodies have their regular sized heart not collapsed.
Do you believe she was murdered?
Sí, claro.
Yes, of course.
She was murdered.
Sí. Y pensamos que han querido matar al bebé.
And we thought that maybe they also tried to kill the baby.
Porque ingresa por acá en la lesión.
There's an angle of the wound that goes into her body towards the fetus, but it did. So we think that they tried to kill the fetus.
Oh, that's terrible.
But they didn't reach the placenta.
And so, doctor, that when we say the fetus, obviously we've seen stories of others of these beings having eggs. How is this baby stored inside the woman's body?
No. Estos humanoides,
Totally
ninguno
humanoid.
tiene huevos.
So there's a womb.
None of the humanoid types have eggs.
Los de la otra especie, que son de los reptilianos, sí tienen huevos, todos.
But the other species, which is reptilian, they all do have eggs.
And so this hole here, does it indicate she had been wounded previously?
Este hueco aquí en la frente indica que ha sido herida ahí.
No, no es un hueco, es un implante.
No, it's not a hole, it's an implant.
It's been grafted.
And what's the purpose of the implant?
Es un metal.
¿Cuál sería el propósito del implante?
Desconocemos.
We don't know.
Pero tiene 14, ¿no?
We have a second implant here.
Tiene 10 implantes.
She has 10 implants.
10 implants.
Sí, 10 implantes.
What tests need to be done to confirm that this being is an entirely new species?
Paleo-ADN.
Paleo-DNA.
Paleo-DNA. And what does that mean? What is paleo-DNA?
¿Qué significa paleo-ADN?
Es el ADN.
Unlike the regular sequences done for understanding the paternity or maternity of regular cases, in this case, we need the complete sequencing.
The elongated skull, are you able to show conclusively that that is not a result of artificial elongation?
Puede determinar. Yes, completely.
You're very sure?
Completamente.
Yes, completely sure.
And similarly with the tridactyl limbs, there is no possibility that they are just excised thumb. I mean, I don't understand how a being with only 3 fingers could have manipulated things without a reverse thumb joint.
There's no need for it, he says, because of the length of the fingers.
Envuelven.
They're able to unfold things.
Envuelven. Tienen los dedos más largos, ellos se envuelven así.
They're longer.
No ponen.
They are longer fingers and they can. Yeah.
Doctor, do you think we are looking at a completely different advanced species, humanoid species, that once existed on this planet?
Claro que existió. Ahí está.
Yes, of course it existed. There it is.
Ahí está que existió.
But I'm trying to think of a reason why it cannot be. You know, obviously, my job is to be skeptical, but I am having trouble finding reasons to be skeptical. You do not believe that this is some kind of constructed object?
Definitivamente no es construido.
Definitely it was not built.
And here's where scientific opinion divides. Recent new expert analysis suggests that scans of some of these bodies do show signs of a possible hoax, tampering, that they are perhaps human remains with digits excised and bones inserted. These claims are hotly disputed by the Peruvian scientists we interviewed, and if these are a hoax, I strongly doubt any of the scientists and researchers we interviewed are a party to any alleged deceit.
Y te voy a decir por qué me gusta este objeto especialmente.
And I'm going to tell you why I like this body in particular.
Porque tiene un tridáctilo dentro de su vientre.
Because it has a tridactyl inside its womb.
So how do you fake that?
Sí, y eso cómo se podría hackear, ¿no?
La prueba definitiva lo llamamos.
Por eso le llamamos la prueba definitiva.
Yeah, that's why we call her the definitive proof.
What is the reaction of the Peruvian government to this discovery? This is huge.
Ninguna.
None.
Ninguna.
But, I mean, could this be a non-human species that has come from another planet, that was just here on our planet?
No sé.
I don't know.
Don't know. We just don't know. So, JP, my mind is blown. I don't know about yours.
I feel absolutely exhausted because of the volume of information that was shared, the intensity of the interactions that were going on in the room, and just the fact that you see these, the fact that the bodies are so unusual, but these beautiful gold implants appearing over the forehead where the pineal gland would be.
Absolutely. I think that my takeaway is I was expecting, to be honest with you, to find a reason to be skeptical. But I, for the life of me, can't find any reason to think that they are artificial constructed dolls or some kind of constructed object of any kind.
I agree, and I think I'm also convinced that the medical team or the scientists behind this are absolutely acting in good faith.
Oh yeah,
they are genuine. They are open about what they do not know and what needs to be done, where there needs to be more CAT scans.
Well, they're acknowledging. I mean, obviously we can't be definitive at this stage with those objects, but he's saying yes, we need to do paleo DNA testing. But when you look at the evidence, you go, well. I mean, there is no evidence there of any kind of constructed anatomy. That's not something that somebody's
sophisticated.
It's not been bolted together
Look
by
at
somebody.
Montserrat. Montserrat is apparently a tridactyl being that may or may not be a hybrid of some kind.
Sure.
And she has a tridactyl embryo or baby fetus inside of her.
Yeah, and the drama of that story too, I find it quite touching. This poor female being clearly murdered in an effort to kill her and her baby. It's so tragic, and yet we don't know anything about why this happened. We don't even know what she is.
Who they are.
But the mind-blowing implications for me are, there is a highly advanced species that is completely unknown on this planet, that if Maria DNA is correct, was constructed by another species entirely that hybridized that being from humans.
Doesn't it put into question, though, the whole idea of what is indigenous and what is not indigenous to the planet of Earth?
Yeah. Did you have the feeling that we might be looking at a grey alien?
It looked like one, and I just had this impression that as per all the the data, the experiencer data and drawings and impressions, that you have these massive black eyes, but what we saw were the sockets. No covers, but just these enormous 45-degree angle slits where pupils would have been. And I'm speechless.
I must confess, I'm still kind of
soaking it in,
mind-boggled by what we just saw, because
integrating it all.
Journalistically, I feel the need to be rigorously skeptical. I can't think of any reason to be, though, because I'm not a scientist. I mean, I'm hoping that these beings will be put to peer review, and that's what we're hoping to enable with a certain professor who's interested in doing tests. I just hope that it's possible to investigate these beings enough to be able to resolve what they are and where they came from. We're on our way to meet up with Thierry Yamin because he's brought in the dead of night. They've brought the 10 bodies we're going to be allowed to see from a secure location. Apparently they've arrived at midnight. It's all very cloak and dagger, and we're in our car again on our way to see what Thierry has intriguingly described as different species of beings. Believe it or not, I mean, this is taking a bit of a believing for me, I have to admit, but he's described beings with tails and even an insectoid being. Can you believe it? Let's wait and see. We're here, and if you believe Thierry Yamin, we're about to see 10 bodies, including reptilians with tails and insectoid beings. Can't quite believe it, JP. You better get off the road.
Seeing is believing.
Good morning, buenos dias. Hey, Cheeky.
Hola, Mar.
Good to see you.
Igualmente. Bienvenido. Welcome.
Welcome. Seems like every house has a laboratory.
Yes.
So, where are the bodies?
Où sont les cadavres?
On les attend, ils vont arriver.
Ah.
Non, je blague.
He said, "Don't worry, they're coming in a minute." I'm joking. They're here.
On va se mettre blouse.
We're going to put on a, protective.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Les gants, les masques.
Absolutely.
Tout à fait.
It's an amazing thought that I may be holding in my hand the tridactyl hand of a being that lived 6,000 years ago. It's quite extraordinary. Let's talk about how you came to discover and hear about what we call the mummies.
Alors, en fait, ce sont les Huaqueros qui, en 2016, ont entendu parler de l'Institut Incaré. Et pourquoi ils ont entendu parler de l'Institut Incaré? Parce que quelques années auparavant, on avait fait une découverte très importante à Machu Picchu et beaucoup de médias au niveau national et international, Forbes, National Geo avait parlé de cela. On avait donc parlé de l'Institut Incaré et de nos recherches.
So the Huaqueros, the tomb raiders, actually came to us because they'd heard about this potential discovery that we'd made at Machu Picchu. So they were talking about us already. Then they came to us.
Et donc, en octobre 2016, un ami de Mario, le découvreur du site, est venu me rendre visite à Cusco avec du matériel pour savoir ce que l'on en pensait, si ça pouvait être authentique ou pas, et si on pouvait les aider à faire connaître la découverte.
In October of 2016, one of the friends that discovered the site of Mario's came to us here in Cusco with potentially biological material, and asked us to take a look because he thought there was something unusual about it.
Can I just clarify, there's been carbon dating showing 6,000 years old, and you said also there had been DNA testing. What did the DNA testing show? Was there any human DNA in this?
Yes, à l'université de Lockheed au Canada, ils ont fait des analyses ADN. C'était un peu compliqué parce que l'ADN était très détérioré. Et pour eux, c'est 100% humain.
So the University of Lockheed in Canada did an analysis on this, but the problem is that the quality of the DNA has degraded over time.
Up to 6,000 years.
And due to contamination or the degradation of it, they said it was 100% human.
They said it was 100% human?
Yeah.
How can that be human?
C'est le résultat des analyses.
That's what the analysis says.
What do you think was the purpose of the implants? Do you think they were just decorative?
Bon, non, moi je ne suis pas spécialiste, but on a l'impression que c'est quelque chose de tactile.
He's not a specialist. It's obviously not his place to say why or how, but he has the impression that it was to be touched, tactile operation of some kind.
Oh, right, yeah, maybe, okay.
I don't know.
Wow, that is mind-blowing. We may be looking, JP, at something that was highly advanced. I mean, it had the intelligence to be able to put an implant on a hand that lived 6,000 years ago on this planet.
Potentially, it isn't simply about beings that lived thousands of years ago. We've spoken to an indigenous man from Inca heritage, and he says that he's seen them in the Peruvian jungle.
So who is this?
C'est Earl.
Earl.
Et c'est la momie dont on a une photo au moment où Mario l'a découverte.
Ah oui. So this is the mummy where we have the photograph at the very moment that Mario, the Vaquero, discovered this item.
So a photograph inside the cave?
À l'intérieur
oui.
du caverne.
Oui. Et on voit comme un tunnel de mine, il y a des poutres qui barrent la vision de son téléphone. Et elle avait des habits. Elle avait comme un bonnet, etc. Ce qu'on peut voir dans la vidéo.
So he's saying that, you know, it's basically like a system like a mine, and these sort of cavities inside, which made it very difficult to photograph. But Earl actually had a head covering, a cloth, de textile.
Oui.
A textile type head covering when it was discovered.
Is there any implants?
Non, non. Et on lui a enlevé le cerveau et on lui a ouvert le sternum, on lui a retiré les entrailles, le poumon, etc.
De ce spécimen?
Oui, donc elle n'a pas de cerveau. Elle n'a plus de cœur ni de poumon.
So there's no heart, there's no...
Et
il y avait bien des organes.
Pardon?
Mais il y avait des organes.
Oui, mais ils lui ont enlevé, on ne sait pas pourquoi.
C'est qui, oui, Mario?
Non, Mario, il l'a pas touché.
Non, les gens,
à l'époque.
So what he's saying is that these organs were removed apparently at the time of burial.
Peut-être qu'elle a été sacrifiée, on ne sait pas.
It was sacrificed.
Et ce qui est intéressant, c'est que la main qui est à l'intérieur, tu sais, la main là, elle est il est très abîmé, cette momie. La momie est très abîmée.
So this mummy is
Et
badly
donc,
damaged, and the left hand is...
il est pratiquement impossible que ce soit un fake. Parce que dans les tomographies, on voit que les os sont cassés, elle est en très mauvais état.
Based on the tomographic scan, it seems to Thierry that it would be almost impossible to fake this because the bones are shattered and damaged.
Okay, so what blows me away is I am being overwhelmed in the last couple of years since I started talking about different alleged alien beings. And many of the accounts that I receive describe enormous heads with eyes that go up in slits like that and very deep, wide eye sockets. Are we looking at a being that has presented itself to humans in the contemporary world? Is this a forebear of non-human intelligences that are still engaging with this planet? You believe you have discovered non-human intelligent beings.
Mario a fait cette découverte.
Mario discovered them.
Nous, on a juste été des intermédiaires qui ont permis de le révéler au public.
What is the basis upon which you believe they are intelligent beings, advanced technology?
Pour moi, la science parle et les analyses ADN montrent que ce ne peut pas être une falsification. Les empreintes digitales montrent que ça ne peut pas être des falsifications. La présence d'implants, d'objets en métal sur une grande partie de ces spécimens montre que ça ne peut pas être une falsification.
Why? Because to me, science speaks. The DNA says that there are aspects that are non-human and unidentified. There are implants in some of these specimens that are completely unexplained and beyond the capacity of faking them.
Is it possible that whoever did the implants, though, was someone else, something else? Is it possible that these animals, these beings, were created by somebody highly advanced, but they were some kind of experiment?
Oui, c'est ce que l'on pense à l'Institut Incarri. Ce ne sont pas des extraterrestres, ces momies, mais c'est le produit, peut-être, c'est une hypothèse, d'expérimentation que le Pérou a connu sur une longue période, parce qu'on a l'impression que les Péruviens de cette époque, de l'époque Paracas et Nazca, ont été en contact avec un peuple venu d'ailleurs. Mais on parle d'une expérience de plus de 1000 ans et qui continue peut-être aujourd'hui encore.
Yes, that's what we at the Inkari Institute believe on a speculative basis, that these are probably the result of an experimentation, of hybridization, because the culture of Nazca speaks about having contact with these other non-human intelligences, and there is a logic to this.
This is the insectoid?
Is this the insectoid?
C'est celui-là que l'on voit en Australie sur les peintures
This is the one
rupestres.
that's depicted on the artwork in Australia.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. You can see the wings. Il y en a encore aussi.
Il en a 13.
There's 13 implants on this being, or this object.
13?
Yeah, you can see the gold.
Et il a 3 œufs à l'intérieur.
3 eggs are inside the abdomen, according to the...
Et tu te demandes comment un truc comme ça, si c'est authentique, comment ça pouvait respirer? Parce qu'il n'y a pas de côte, donc il n'y a pas de poumons.
How could a being of this size even breathe, being the size that it is?
Those are wings?
Ce sont des ailes.
On dirait.
We would say,
Mais,
they probably are.
mais moi je me demande si c'était pas un moyen de communication comme certains insectes, tu sais les grillons.
But he thinks perhaps instead of being used for flight, they could have been used for communication instead.
I mean, it's a preposterous... My instinct is to think, and I mean no disrespect, but my instinct is to think it must be fabricated because it looks like a composite.
Mm-hmm.
The feet are so huge.
Yes.
This an implant?
Si, yes, si.
Lord.
Oh my word.
I mean,
talk about stereotype.
That's E.T.
Yes. My word.
Avec Maria, Josefina, c'est la star des momies de Nazca.
So Thierry says that Josefina is the star of all the Nazca bodies that have been found. Détail ici.
Et là, elle descend la diatomée. On l'a nettoyé. Enfin, c'est Cliff Miles, le paléontologue, qui l'a nettoyé à la diatomée.
Cliff Miles, the paleontologist, actually cleaned Josefina up. This is why it looks so.
Et Cliff a vu que, en fait, la couleur marron, elle est pas. C'est un produit qu'elle a.
So the brown in coloring is not the natural color of the body. It's
comme
un
bitume, comme un
the
bitume.
solvent or the chemical that was used to clean it up.
She was pregnant?
Elle était enceinte, yes.
Oui.
And I guess this is the osmium implant.
Si.
So osmium is one of the world's rarest and most expensive metals, and there is a band of osmium embedded into her flesh at the top of her chest.
How many $1,000 per gram?
Oh, it was some ridiculous amount.
An enormous amount. At a time where it hadn't even been discovered according to human history.
Do we know how? Oh, here we go. There's the radiology scan. So this is Josephina.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
What do we know? Has she had DNA carbon dating?
Non. On a juste fait des analyses.
No, she's had no test done. It's Victoria, the object that we saw in Ica, that has had the DNA.
Une autre.
Yes. Là, c'est Paul. Et ce qui est intéressant dans ce spécimen, c'est que on voit la peau.
So this specimen is called Paul, and what's interesting about it is that we can see the skin.
Ouais. On voit bien la. On voit la texture de la peau.
We can see the texture of the skin.
Oh my goodness me.
Et pareil, il a été enduit d'un bitume.
So
un peu comme les Égyptiens mettaient du natron. Après, ils mettaient un bandage. Le bandage, c'est un peu la diatomée. On peut presque faire une comparaison dans le processus de...
So in fact, he's comparing the preservation, thanks to the diatomaceous earth, as comparable to how the Egyptians preserved bodies.
So, is there a scan, an internal scan of this being?
Est-ce qu'on a fait un écran, un scan
oui.
de l'intérieur?
Oui.
Yes.
And can we see that?
Le scanner radio ou scanner?
Qu'est-ce que vous en avez?
X-ray.
X-ray ici.
Ouais.
I mean, look, I suppose at a stretch, you could construct this object superficially with a 3D printer or something, and
that was something I thought of, but apparently it's not doable.
But I don't know how you would recreate the internal sinews, tendons, muscles, organs. I mean, if it is a hoax, it's an incredible hoax, and I don't know for what benefit it would be a hoax.
No. It would be the most advanced 3D scanner in the world.
It'd be amazing.
Or not of this world.
I don't understand why the Peruvian government and certain debunker scientists would be just peremptorily dismissing these objects and saying, without investigating, they're just fake, they're fabricated. These must be investigated. They must be analysed by independent peer-review scientists to see whether there's any basis to the possibility that these are non-human, intelligent, advanced beings that existed on this planet. That's the implication.
That was pretty powerful.
That's amazing.
The resonance.
Amazing. That's quite something.
That surprised me, actually.
Yeah. It actually resonates. He's right. It resonates. It's just like the one we went to in Egypt. It's the same thing. So two separate civilizations discovered the ability to use stone to tune into frequencies in different parts of the world.
We really are going deep into the Andean mountains. You can see why Machu Picchu stayed hidden for so long. They say the Spanish never found Machu Picchu during their colonization of Peru, and you can see why. To get there, you crawl for many, many miles through what is precipitous mountainous country deep into the Andes. It's an amazing journey. I'm doing it in the lap of luxury by train and then by bus. We're on the bus now, rattling our way along a dirt road up to Machu Picchu.
But I take my hat off to Hiram Bingham and all the other adventurous explorers that hacked their way through this deep Andean jungle, probably walking for days or sitting on the back of a donkey, making their way to this lost temple at the top of the hill, Machu Picchu. Very exciting to be on my way there. Finally, we're here in the lost temple of Machu Picchu, incredibly high up in the hills of the Andes. It's quite breathtaking here. Let's have a look at this. We're walking down into the area of the megalithic site that sits slap bang in the middle of Machu Picchu. And yet again, haha, more steps. So this is the entrance to the city. We're now inside the ancient city of Machu Picchu. The air is actually quite thin up here. So in between composing a sentence, I'm gasping for breath. Just the scale of this place is mind-blowing. Whoever built the megalithic ruins here obviously recognized it as well. You could hide here, and nobody would know you were here. And funnily enough, the Spanish had no idea, absolutely no idea the Incans had hid out here. Well, the takeaway I have, most of all, from Machu Picchu is just how little we know about its origins. Just like Egypt, I mean, there are these gigantic blocks of stone, 50, 100, 150 tons, that have been pulled up these magnificent hills by someone. Thousands, possibly tens of thousands of years ago. And we have absolutely no explanation for how these buildings were built, what they were built for. And the official explanation, of course, is that they were built by the Incans, and yet even many of the Incans say that's an extremely implausible explanation. Well, all I can say, it's a privilege to be here, and what an exciting day. Machu Picchu, what a splendid place. This is Ollantaytambo, which is one of the great sites from the Incan history, but of course, like just about everything else in Peru, it's built on top of megalithic ruins, the provenance of which nobody has any idea when they were built, what they were built for. And much of this is Inca apparently, but way up the top there, we're going to go and have a look at some rocks right at the top of the hill, which are perfectly bonded and inexplicably gigantically large blocks of andesite granite, which have been cut very, very precisely to the extent that you can't even insert a playing card between the faces of the granite. I mean, it's an architectural mystery sitting in plain sight.
For me, this is the epicenter of the mystery of this incredible place.
You can just get a piece of paper in between the two blocks.
But the question is, does money come out?
That's quite something.
It's amazing.
That was pretty. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's quite something.
That surprised me, actually.
Yeah, it actually resonates. He's right, it resonates. It's just like the one we went to in Egypt. It's the same thing. So two separate civilizations discovered the ability to use stone to tune into frequencies in different parts of the world. I love it. Okay, JP, come on in. It's just like the Saqqara temple in Egypt that we visited a year ago, isn't it, JP?
It's very similar in that there's a space for, to put your head in and experience some sort of resonance. But in Egypt, you can actually hear the tone.
You could feel the energy.
Yeah, we're talking about the so-called sound temple outside of Saqqara, right next to the step pyramid of Djoser, as it's so-called, probably a misnomer.
It's lovely watching. It's lovely watching everybody's reaction.
You've set a trend, Ross.
I mean, it gives you quite a buzz tapping into this because it feels quite mystical doing it.
Yeah.
We're on our way to a place called Naupa Waka, which sadly is way up there. One hell of a climb. About 3,000 meters above sea level here, and you can feel the lack of oxygen. You can barely talk. So the real purpose of this place is lost in history. It's, according to Brian Foster, it's pre-Inca. In fact, he believes it dates back to the time of the Younger Dryas, which is 12,500 years ago, well before any human civilization was known to exist on the planet. And if you look at this astonishing art rockwork here, it's cutting into the granite in ways that defies explanation. You would have needed diamond-tipped saws to cut that kind of incredibly dense granite. And nobody really has any explanation for how it was cut the way it is, such precise 90-degree angles. And also nobody has any idea what it was for, but the speculation is it's some kind of portal. Just like so many of these beautiful megalithic ruins in Peru, they're an eternal mystery. I don't know if it's lack of oxygen, but I am certainly feeling an energy that I don't normally feel when I'm walking around a megalithic ruin. There really is a pulse and energy to this place. It's quite extraordinary. And it's also quite beautiful. It's a loving feeling.
After seeing these so-called tridactyl mummy remains for myself in Peru, how do we balance the, I think, quite sincere belief of the scientists on the ground there in Peru that these are authentic remains with the legitimate concerns that have been raised by experts and scientists from overseas? How can this be resolved? Well, for starters, I don't think it was ever justifiable that heritage remains, especially if they contained human remains, were ever taken out of Peru. That's just disgraceful. This is Peruvian heritage and it should stay there. And what I like is the work that's being done by the University of Ica scientists who do appear to genuinely want peer-reviewed research and support to investigate these tridactyl remains, if that's what they are. They're happy to see a peer-reviewed study to assess whether these objects are indeed authentic, and that's what I think should happen. I'm not a scientist, but there has to be a way of definitively resolving whether these remains are authentic or not. What we have at the moment is two different sets of experts bickering with each other, arguing about their authenticity. The Icke University team want and support the idea of an internationally peer-reviewed study fully funded to assess once and for all whether these objects are authentic or whether they're hoaxes. I also think that Peru's Ministry of Culture shouldn't be allowed to intervene and try and take these remains from a legitimate scientific investigation. They perhaps also should have some oversight so they can feel comfortable about the study. But what I don't think should happen is that ufologists and journalists shouldn't be making the final say. This investigation needs to be run by independent, eminent scientists, not by ufologists or journalists. It's a disaster, frankly, that if there really was a recovery of these desiccated remains in 2015, that it was made by grave robbers, criminals, rather than eminent archaeologists. We still don't know the location where these remains were supposedly found, and I think that puts a big red flag over any efforts to try and assert the authenticity or fraudulent nature of these remains. We need to find out where these remains came from. I don't know why the acknowledged criminal who supposedly recovered these remains from a secret location somewhere near the Nazca Desert hasn't been criminally prosecuted for hindering investigations into where these remains came from. He's apparently refusing to reveal that location. So you've got a criminal who's trying to make money out of what some people are asserting are recovered human remains from ancient burial sites. That is a criminal offence under Peruvian law, and he should be criminally prosecuted if he fails to heed the law to help people find that location. Ultimately, we should be trusting in good peer-reviewed science to resolve this matter once and for all, and that hasn't happened yet.